Call the meeting of the Fall River Park Board of Commissioners to order Monday, January 25th, 2021. Pursuant to roll call of commissioners.
Commissioner Farias,
Ellen Rigo,
Commissioner Sylvia,
Amber Burns.
Joseph De Silva. We got to go back to pursuant of the open meeting law. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording to this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through the medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Hey. And I get acceptance of the minutes from October 7th, November 4th, and December 7th, 2020.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from October 7th and November 4th
second,
And December 7th.
and December 7th.
Seconded by, motion by Commissioner Rigo, Commissioner Farias, second by Commissioner Rigo. Roll call vote. Commissioner Farias,
Yes,
Commissioner Rigo,
yes,
Commissioner Sylvia,
yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Silva, yes. Citizens, any input? Do we know if we have any citizens input? Ms. Smith, is there
Nancy.
any? Nancy?
We can't hear you.
She's saying no.
Okay. New business. Item A, election of officers. As you know, guys, we came on in August, myself and Commissioner Burns. So we were filling in the rest of the term of the former commissioners. So as of January, the city charter states that you have to have election of new officers and everything. So we are just gonna do officers again for the January for the city charter. For chairman, I have any nominations?
I nominate Joseph De Silva for chair.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Commissioner Rio. I accept, roll call vote. Commissioner Farias,
Yes,
Commissioner Rigo,
yes,
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Sylvia,
Yes,
Commissioner Silva, yes. Nominations for vice chairman. I nominate Victor Farias.
I accept the nomination.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll
I
call
accept
vote. Go
Joey,
ahead.
Joey, you need them to motion and second the nomination. And then you need to accept, and then you need to motion and second the actual, and then have a roll call. So we don't have any issue. So you need a motion, a second, a motion and a second. And then the roll call votes on all of them.
Yeah, we did do that the first time.
Right, but that's
All right.
just so you do it this time.
Yeah. Vice chairman, I nominated Victor for chairman. Commissioner Burns seconded it. A roll call vote to accept the motion. Commissioner Silva, yes. Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Rigo,
yes,
Commissioner Sylvia,
yes.
Commissioner Farias.
Yes,
Okay. Nominations for secretary.
I nominate Amber Burns for the
I have a
secretary.
second. I have a second.
second,
I accept.
Roll call vote for the nominations for secretary, Amber Burns. Commissioner Farias,
Yes,
Commissioner Rigo,
yes,
Commissioner Sylvia,
Yes,
Commissioner De Silva, yes. Commissioner Burns.
Yes.
Congratulations, everyone. Okay, item B, we have Dumont National Little League changes and field improvements. Do we have Brandy?
I'm here for the league. Chris Vining.
Chris Vining, okay. All righty. So we have a packet that was sent to us by you, by Brandy. You want to go over this stuff with us?
Yes, absolutely. So the packet included our reasoning for changing the league, as well as conditions that we would like to improve upon. We decided to withdraw from Little League basically because of several years of issues and consideration on this. It was not an easy decision. Becoming an independent league would allow kids to play for us no matter where if they move outside the city, no matter where they live, they don't have to worry about being able to play in our league. We've always prided ourselves in being a family-friendly league that is affordable, and that's completely staying the same. We're just leaving Little League and becoming our own entity. Over the fall, we've offered a baseball academy that was widely attended. We've started new AAU teams that will be playing throughout New England, and we've had great success with that already. Things that we were not able to do before, we're now able to do, and nothing is changing in terms of our high quality or what we want to offer. It just allows us to branch out throughout the city for anyone who wants to play to be able to play for our league.
And get into the baseball field projects. You got 4
Yes.
fields listed here. Can you just go over what you'd like to be doing, trying to do this?
Start in the second week of March. It would be the 3 fields at Dumont Field. They need various amounts of work. That would also be Lafayette as well. Our biggest issue that we run into is that the fields definitely have some issues with drainage. That did definitely improve when 2019, when that area was cut down to the side of the field that allowed for better drainage. However, we have a lot of issues with getting grass to grow and field conditions to stay dry if it rains. Basically, what we're looking to do is to basically deal with any settling and leveling that we have. We have areas where we have dips. We're looking to level off the field. We're definitely needing a lot more dirt. We're looking to seed, basically bring the quality of the fields up to what they need to be a premier league in the city. We get a lot of exposure just from people driving on the highway, and we want to be able to represent the city well by having fields that we will be able to maintain and be the pride of the city. I included several different pictures of everything, including concrete that's coming up due to water issues, which also is causing a few fences and gates to be a little bit askew. Issues with weeds, issues with needing a good amount of sod, base paths and base lines that have over time shifted and are not even. There is both down at Dumont and at Lafayette areas where the field will slant down, usually right from the edge of the infield heading into the outfield where the water drains. We've had issues every year with mopeds and dirt bikes leaving marks all over the field, both during the season and after the season. I mean, I know I have a picture there of, dogs digging up holes. I mean, despite the fact that, there are no dog signs, people, especially as you face the field on the right, it ends up almost becoming a dog park. Every time we try to use the field, we're cleaning up after dogs, we're digging out big holes. At Lafayette, there is a big issue with the backstop where it is having areas of exposed metal. It needs to kind of be tightened up and renovated. It's warped from over time. It's definitely is a lot of dirt. I know there's a couple pictures there that show how big of a dip there is between the edge of the grass and the dirt. A lot of that needs to be filled in and remeasured, get the angles correct, get the grass shaved down. And I went to Maplewood and took some pictures showing that what it should look like and how it is more even, because we want to give these kids the best experience. And it's difficult to be able to play a quality game when you're tripping and falling when you're trying to run, or muddy, or you get rained out. It takes. So those are things we're looking to improve on. We're not looking to redo or reinvent the wheel. We're looking to just make
Hold
it.
on 1 second, I'm sorry. We have a lot of background noise. Someone. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so we're looking to make those improvements. I know that upon talking to some of the contractors that we had talked to, I know that the area from the highway, the state owns a certain amount of that area. So we want to just, instead of redoing everything, we want to renovate what's there and improve it, because we'd like to not have to go in front of the state as well, because that would push the timetable back. If we did like a complete redo of the fields, that would require us going in front of the state due to the proximity of the highway. And we'd like to avoid that if possible. And this is not a project that,
Go ahead.
it was just not a project that we're asking the city to pay for. We're looking to, pay for this ourselves with grants. And even going forward, we do have a yearly grant that comes in that will be used for upkeep of field maintenance going forward in the future.
That's the question I was going to ask, is we have all this packet. You guys did a nice job with this packet, but where is your cost analysis? How much money you have in account or something for this? Because we don't want you to start something that, if this is going to be a $40,000 job or something, doing all these fields, and you only have 10 grand and we start a project that we can't finish afterwards.
And I'm definitely aware of that being a concern. We're planning to work with Immaculate Landscaping to be able to, they've given us a time frame of giving us a couple of years to pay off any type of work. We pay for the materials and they give us time for that to get it taken care of. We have more than sufficient funds to be able to cover this, even if we were to do it right away, but we have the ability to space it out. So that's what we're going to do. And it's going to be privately funded.
So does any other commissioners have any questions or concerns about this?
What is the price?
That we are still determining. Like I said, we're still willing to accept bids. We've talked anywhere depending on what type of upgrades we're looking for. That still is not been 100% determined yet, but the cost of what we're paying up front is more than covered in our account. And then we are going to have at least 2 years to pay off the remaining work.
This all sounds great, but I definitely think that I think it's a good idea. It's really great for the city. However, I think we would need to have that breakdown, have a full understanding of exactly.
Amber, hold on 1 second.
Yeah, I know. I don't know who that is.
Someone check their background. We'll mute them because we are picking up all feedback. Go ahead.
Just for financially, like he had said, to make sure that we don't end up getting in, or you guys don't get into something that you can't finish. I think to be able to have a full listing of all of the bids that you guys have, proof of down payment and all of that lined up for us to be able to move forward, just so that we don't get ourselves as a city in a situation where now the project is half done, they want the money, and because it's obviously a city park, we want to just make sure the city isn't liable for this. So I think maybe we would need some sort of financial breakout of exactly how you guys plan on proceeding. Grants, private fund, all of that with the cost and who you decide to go with, and then potentially move forward from there.
And if I can ask a question, Ms. Smith,
Yes,
Nancy,
yep.
all these contractors that are gonna do work have to be licensed and bonded, correct? We have to have that in
Well, I mean, first of all, I think this is a lot of work to take on all at once. I think,
Check your
you know,
payments right
kind of like
here.
Commissioner Burns
Ow.
said,
Just to give you a
it kind
heads
of
up.
needs to be taken on one step at a
Sorry,
time.
Nancy.
So,
Nancy, hold on a second. Someone has that background. If you can, please stop so we can get this meeting going through, please. Thank you. Go ahead, Nancy.
so I guess what I'm saying is I realize that this is a lot of work, and what they're looking to do is a lot of money. And Commissioner Burns is right, where she's, you know, we don't want to have a situation where a project is started, it's not completed, and then, you know, we've had that before, not necessarily with this particular league, but we've had it in the city. My concern is there was some issue or some conversation, and maybe Mr. Vining can clarify about the fencing of Dumont Field. From what I understand, I mean, my question is, do you have any teams of kids under 12? Because those fields should be used only by kids under 12. And to expand those fields in any way, shape, or form to be used by kids that are 14 or 17, that's a very big liability, because those balls can be hit right over into Route 24. I've seen kids hit that. That's a short field. So I would think that those guys would have to be at Lafayette. And I'm not sure if you have younger kids, but I know that the advertisement that you had put out was a 14U team and a 17U team. Am I correct in that assumption, that those are the two age groups?
Correct, but that is separate from those. They would not be playing at Dumont Field. That would be the age groups are not changing in terms of what field and what age groups are at what field.
Right.
It would still be 4 to 12 at Dumont Field. And
So are you still having a younger team? Are you still going to have younger teams? Okay.
Absolutely.
So
Nothing.
this is my other question, and maybe you can clarify it as well. I know last year, each of the teams, I think Federal had one team and North Park had one team and you guys had one team, and you all interplayed. Is that correct? Like in the division, like, I don't know if you call yours farm or instructional or pony, but the different age groups had one team that kind of inter-league played, if I'm correct.
We had one team in every division. The other leagues did not have a team in every division. We did have one in every division, and we did play interleague. I know that North Park is no longer going to be fielding a little league team. We're also exploring multiple different teams and places to play in terms of opponents, both some in the city and outside. Anything with the fencing at Dumont was just to fix areas where the concrete was up. The pictures of the fencing were actually the backstop at Lafayette that was in disrepair. Only issues with fencing is not to expand or change any dimensions. It's just to fix any areas where gates are sagging or anything of that regard. The entire project itself, when we've priced it out, we've gotten multiple bids. It was going to be cheaper to do the work on all three at the time. The far right field has very little, if any, work that needs to be done besides yearly maintenance. We were looking at, it's roughly going to be about $20,000 with about $10,000 down, which we can pay out of pocket immediately and still have more than enough of a cushion for the entire season before any signups for this upcoming year.
Well, that was what I was going to say as well. I mean, with the whole situation here, with there now being the point of we have one little league, from what I'm hearing throughout the city, it's going to be one little league. And the numbers of these leagues, when everyone had 3 and 4 and 5 fields at their disposal, were much, many more kids. I mean, each one of these, we used to have 6, 7 little leagues itself. between
Yep.
Maple Woods and Abbott Courts. And we now, and that's when these leagues needed the use of 3 and 4 fields at a time. I don't know if that's what this board is going to move forward doing. I know that every division or every Little League district used to have all these fields at their access. But depending on what kind of numbers you're pulling and what kind of numbers everyone else is pulling is going to have to determine how many fields we give out and don't have fields available to the public. Because before,
Absolutely.
before everyone was playing. So they were a part of one league or another. So every kid kind of played. But as far as even maintenance on our end, to maintain four ball fields that may only get one used as much as for tournament play or for whatever, we're all going to have to decide what we're going to do with all these fields, because basically the fields have outlived the number of participants.
Last year, we did use all 3 fields with the number of kids we had. We've gotten more kids during the fall, and you continue to use all 3 fields. One of the organizations we are potentially playing against would be Sybil, and we're looking to pull kids from there as well. A lot of the kids from Fall River leave to go play there.
Mhm.
And because of addresses, we have a lot of issues in the city where based on where you live determines where you play. And that's always
Little
been a
League.
concern.
Right,
Yes,
Little League.
where they cross now, that is not a concern, because any child, I mean, you could come from Boston if you wanted to drive down.
Well, not according to the board's rules, because they want to give Fall River kids preference. So that's going
Well,
to be,
yes, I'm not
that's going to be
saying
the one
in
thing as
general,
well.
I'm like-
And now with there being one Little League, that Little League, and I could be wrong, it can pull from anywhere in the city as well now. Am I correct when I say that? Because there's now one Little League charter.
Yes.
So the kids from North, the kids from Dumont, whatever that used to play Little League, whether it now there's like you're able to pull from everywhere, out of town, whatever. Little League is just capable of pulling from Fall River. Am I correct when I say that?
Yes,
Okay.
our goal is still to service the same Fall River kids. We previously had Westport as well. We got a couple kids from there, not a large amount. I mean, a handful.
No, some kids move. They move from Fall River to
Exactly.
Westport and they stay within the league. Yeah.
So, you've got an older sibling and a younger sibling. They both want to play at the same place. So, like I said, our numbers, we had more than enough. We were using every day, using the fields, 2, if not sometimes 3 fields daily. And our numbers are higher this year than they were last year, with the ability to pull in more kids as well. So we will definitely be using all of the fields without an issue in terms of having enough numbers or
Right.
funds to cover that. Or like I said, that's definitely not a,
My concern at this point is if I wanted to, as the city of Fall River, do maintenance on the 3 fields at Dumont and the Lafayette Park, I would not have enough funding to do that. So that's where the concern of the board comes in. How is your league going to be able to move forward? So I think what the board is asking you to do, and I could be wrong, they can speak up, is to prioritize what project do you want to do first and put that forward one at a time. I know that it's cheaper if you put everything out together. However, the board does not want to take that risk of, it goes out and then all of a sudden something goes wrong with the league. We've had multiple changes with league presidents since I've been there. All it has to do is take one thing to go wrong and the cards get thrown up in the air. You know what I'm saying? So I think the board is looking to protect themselves, the city, and the park properties by saying, prioritize what is the most important one for you. Is it Lafayette because you now have this new 14 and 17U, because there's only 2 teams, right? A 14U and a 17U. So you have these 2 teams that are going to play at Lafayette Park, and the money that is being charged for those leagues is much different than what you're going to charge for the other leagues. It's going to be much less, much more compared to what you're charging for those other leagues. So with those people paying that money, they're going to expect a little more from the fields they play on and the conditions of those fields. So that's my concern. Do you want to start with the repairs to Lafayette? Because I don't think the city of Fall River can move forward with just an open, like an open policy or an open invoice of do all of those things at one time. I think you're going to have to prioritize. And I mean, in that ad too, I was concerned because it said field rental. Now, you don't rent our fields. Is that the charge for those AAU teams? Do you pay field rental in other places? Because that's something that this board has been kicking around as well.
Yes. When the AAU teams, have gone back and forth. The issue in part is because last year we were not able to secure the ability to use a porta potty for health reasons because of COVID. That makes it difficult to have, say, a team come and play 2 games on a Saturday with no bathroom facilities. So we are willing to and are able to play an entire season on the road at other parks if necessary. Some places and other cities do charge for field rentals.
Yep.
So we may play, say if we play Seekonk and they have, we split $50 for fields on a Saturday. So that would be the case. We're not charging anyone for using the fields. Lafayette is where we would house it, but at this point we have not even committed. Obviously there's no permit. We have not committed to even playing there. If we are able to play the entire season on, at other parks outside the city if necessary as well. In terms of Dumont, I mean, my wife has been the president there. I've been there for going on over 4 years. We have the funds in the bank to secure the project from start to finish. We have a contractor who's willing to work with us, and we have one field currently that just needs the normal maintenance, the far right field. It needs
The
just
newest
normal
field. The newest one,
yes,
right?
correct.
Yeah.
That doesn't require much of the normal maintenance we would do every year.
Here's
So
my other concern. I don't mean to cut you short, but here's my other concern is right now, we still don't know, we're hoping that this COVID situation gets better, but if it takes a turn, now where do we go? With you guys investing all this money, there's a lot of unanswered questions in both the upcoming season and how we move forward. I mean, I know right now things are looking good to some people, but it takes one twist. I mean, I'm not even sure that the numbers have changed for outside gatherings at this point.
And yet we do have the funds to be able to pay for this all currently. We just have the ability to spread it out. So we're going to obviously do that because that makes more financial sense. That's why we're waiting till March to start any kind of projects as well, to see how the numbers go, to see how things transition, and hopefully things will get better. Part of the reason also, I know you mentioned the cost and not sure how things will go. That's also part of the reason why companies are looking for the ability to do work. That's also part of the reason we're able to secure the price we are, is because they're looking to do work.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies last year did not have turf that they normally do because they weren't playing, so they didn't need the turf work to be done. So just as those companies are in some instances hurting, we're able to provide them work that needs to be done at an advantageous time, because whether it's this year, next year, it all basically, the longer it goes, the worse condition it will get in due to, rain, wind, snow. The sooner we do it, the better we're able to have the project done. And the time at the moment is beneficial because the companies are looking to be able to get funds in their pocket to be able to do the project. So instead of saying, something that could normally be 30, okay, we'll do it for 20, because they're looking to do work. So it works on both sides where, they're looking to have a job and we're able to get a better deal. We have the funds to be able to pay for it. If we needed to pay for it all right away, we could do that. But where we've gotten the offer from Immaculate to be able to spread out payments if over a year or two, more if we need it, then it's advantageous to do that and not spend all of the funds we have currently, but we have more than enough to have the project completed.
Okay, so with that being said, did you have a starting project, a project that you would prioritize over the others? Because I'm not sure that this board is or gonna be
Can we-
able to just.
Can we make a
do
motion?
carte
Because I
blanche.
feel like this is gonna go on for a long, we're just gonna keep
Right.
going in circles. I know John
two
and
left
Victor
field-
both had put their hands up if somebody else has something. If not, we should just make a motion.
I would like to say that the left field and the center field are the ones that need the absolute most work. So those would be the priorities.
At
There
which,
isn't
at which field?
at
Lafayette?
Dumont.
Oh,
No, at Dumont. We're, like I said, as you mentioned, we don't even know if we'll be able to use Lafayette this year because of the bathroom situation. The left and the center fields at Dumont are the two biggest, not concerned, but the two biggest priorities at the moment.
Jeff,
Okay, I mean, the board can ask whatever questions they want.
I just want to have, Jeff, you had a question?
I'll wait my turn. Other people had questions before me.
Okay. Who was,
Commissioner Farias.
Commissioner
My
Farias?
question is, do we have to have a public meeting for this project if it goes through?
It would all depend on the cost.
Okay, that's the question I was asking. All right, thank you.
Commissioner, I'll yield
John.
to Commissioner Sylvia. Obviously, he's a board member. He should speak before I do.
Commissioner,
Okay. Thank you. I have a couple of concerns, couple of questions. One of them is, well, just a general statement. I understand about the drainage issue. I believe those fields were built on water department land, and people can correct me if I'm wrong. Part of that land is probably wetlands, and I think that is the biggest concern. So my concern when you bring up drainage is, are you putting drainage in? Like, digging up the field to put actual drainage in there, or you just plan on moving land around to try and improve the drainage?
The biggest issue is the fields not being level has causing pooling, which by getting everything graded out and even will allow it for better drainage. Yes, towards the highway, there are issues, but that is on the other side of the fence. So that is not the playable part of the field. By getting the fields leveled, the biggest issue we have in terms of any water drainage is from rains, we have puddles based on where the field is uneven. That will be graded out and leveled so that way it's able to dissipate evenly without getting pools.
Another question I have is, as far as the funds, you mentioned Immaculate. I'm assuming that's a company you're dealing with.
Yes, Immaculate Landscaping, correct.
So in your package, if you're dealing with a company already, and you said you had estimates, but I don't see any estimates in your package. And you also mentioned that if you had to, you could pay for all this at once. When I look at this, and I'm not a landscaper or a fence company or anything like that, but when I look at this and read your proposal over and over, I'm looking at, in my estimation, maybe $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for new fencing. And what you explained, I think is going to take a lot of cost involved. Leveling off fields and moving land around, and some of the things you said about clay and things like that. You're saying that you have the money, you could pay that up front if you had to.
Correct. Yes,
I'm not comfortable personally, and I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm not comfortable right now personally looking at this package as it is right now. I agree with Ms. Smith. I think you should. It's very ambitious, and I think you should be looking at doing it piecemeal, because I don't think that much ambition. I don't think I have issues with it, because as Ms. Smith said, this has happened to us in the past. People come in with these giant projects. It starts, a third of it gets done. In the past, this has happened, and those people leave the league because their kids age out or whatever the case is, and then the city's left holding a bag for projects that are not completed, and then we're stuck with a public park that's half done, and now we're responsible for it. So I'm not comfortable on this complete package at once, regardless of whether you have the funds or not, or have a payment plan, or whatever the case is. Because again, from past experience, and I've been on this board a very long time, it's happened, and I've seen it done before. And then, you're telling us today, oh yeah, we've been in this league for 4 years, and we're gonna be around forever. We've heard that story before too. And, I'm not saying that you are gonna not be there in a year or two or 3 or 4 or whatever, but it does happen. So I'm not comfortable with this complete package as it is presented. And I agree with some of the statements that Ms. Burns, her concerns. But so I won't support this as a whole. I will support it in different ways. Again, I think it's a good idea to pick out what you think is the highest priority and go from there. But I won't support this complete package tonight. Maybe I will in the future, but not right now. Because I would like to see estimates. I would like to see, how you're going to pay this, and it is a public property. We have the last say, and again, I don't want to put the city in any jeopardy, or the park department, or the board itself. Right now, I'm not against it. I've never been against improving facilities and fields. I just think this is a little ambitious right now, and not seeing any numbers.
We were told that numbers were not necessary to send over. We have the estimates. I can email those over tomorrow. The fencing at Lafayette is not included as part of that. That was just something we were bringing up in terms of something that does need repair. Part of it is we were able to get a good deal because of the timing. And yes, I know you said, $30,000, $43,000 of work. We were able to get that for just over 20,000, which I can send over with the estimates. Nothing is confirmed with any specific company, but we've gotten 3 different quotes. They did range from upwards of $40,000. Obviously, we were not doing that type of work. We were able to get a good deal from Immaculate Landscaping, who I know has worked on your fields as well, Jeff. That
I don't have any fields.
What? Oh, okay, that on Kennedy Park when you were affiliated with them, that they've worked on other fields in the city in the past. But like I said, we can send over all the proposals that we were sent tomorrow. I'd be happy to email them over tomorrow. We were said that we did not need to send those over today.
Where did that come from? Just for my information. Who said you don't have to send in this estimates?
We're just looking for permission for work. They said estimates were not required.
Who said that?
I would have to double.
Who said that? That was my
That
question.
I would have to double check. That information I don't have currently. I don't know who my wife spoke to with that.
Well, we never. When I say this, I'm saying when I say we, I mean me. I've never voted on a project, whether it was city backed, through state or federal grants, or any other league or team or whatever, without seeing numbers. So I don't know how accurate that statement is, because I don't believe we've never ever, since I've been on this board for 25 years, have never looked at a project without numbers in front of me. And that's the biggest issue I have. I think it's like I said, very ambitious, but I am not going to put a vote on something when I don't know the numbers. So if you can email me those or email them to Nancy, I would love to see the different price ranges that you got. That would make me feel a lot more comfortable.
I'll be happy to. Like I said, I can do
And
that tomorrow. I mean, offered to have you guys come down and walk the field so you can see the conditions as well.
I'm gonna, Mr. Sylvia, you're done, so I can have Mr. Perry speak.
Yep, I'll yield for now.
Thank you. Mr. Perry.
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep it short. Obviously, it seems like this conversation is going to continue probably into our next meeting. So just a couple of things. So I think it's always commendable that a league wants to invest in the field, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Couple of things with that, Mr. Vining. I would suggest, and I would think the board would want to see this as well, as Ms. Smith has stated, and Commissioner Sylvia as well. This is a very ambitious project. Okay, so there are a lot of things, and I looked over the proposal. There are a lot of things in here that kind of constitute general field maintenance, right? So some clay here, some dirt there, adjusting this, a fence post here. Those are smaller things. So I would suggest you go back to Immaculate Landscaping and ask them for a quote that you present to the board that is kind of phased out, right? So where there are smaller items that can be done, we know they're well within the scope of being able to complete and get done in a short time period. The bigger ticket items, the ones that may take a little bit longer, maybe those can be a separate quote. That way, we phase it. Phase one, you have several things that you want to do. Phase two, another few, and so on. So that would be a suggestion to yourself and your wife to try to put that together so the board has options. Okay, so that if you present everything as a wholesale package, and there's something in there that might be a concern, you might lose the entire package as opposed to saying, okay, well, the board may be able to recommend phase one is a go, and you can start with those things and make the improvements that are going to be easy enough to get done and complete with minimal cost. Secondly, to Commissioner Burns's point, I agree wholeheartedly. I think we need to see those prices, right? We need to see that the league has the ability to pay those bills. And not saying anybody is being untruthful here. I think that would make the board feel more comfortable, number one. And number two, and to me, more importantly, because I'm not a board member, on the city side of things, Ms. Smith and I understand all good intentions are here, and I get that. But should the league dissipate, should you and yourself in the group that runs the league now, who seem conscientious, walk away or retire from it, it'd be the city left footing that bill. So for instance, I would seriously look at, if I was the board, the sprinkler system. As Commissioner Sylvia knows from past experiences, that's a system that needs constant maintaining. So that's something you really need to look at. And I think that would probably be the last phase of this project if that's the way it goes. Number two, to protect the city and indemnify us from any costs that Immaculate Landscaping might say that your league owes, but because it was done to a Fall River field, now the city is on the hook. I'd look for in that contract something that indemnifies the city in case for some reason the league folds or yourself step away, you and your wife step away from the project, that we're not left paying that bill. I know Ms. Smith will confirm, we just don't have it in our budget. Another sprinkler system to maintain wouldn't be realistic for us. We haven't hard enough time maintaining the ones we do have. So those would be a couple of my concerns. But again, I'll cut it short. I do have a couple of extra concerns about Mr. Vining. Your wife has my number. Mrs. Smith, obviously, you have contact with her. So I think we can discuss this before the next meeting, because it doesn't seem as though that vote is going to be passed or denied tonight. It's just going to be tabled, I would imagine. So I'll let it be at that. But those are a couple of my concerns. Thank you, Commissioner.
I have some concerns myself. Like I said, we're not going to take a vote on this tonight. I'm going to make a motion to table this until our March's meeting, because our February 3rd meeting is already booked for the expansion of the cemetery and everything to be discussed in that there. So I'm going to prioritize this. This is what I want. I'm going to put in my motion is I want a total cost. I want bids, documents, estimates, proof of funding and statements from the league to say that they have this funding. I want this all in writing. And then Mr. Perry said, making sure the city is not going to be liable at all to any of this. And then also I like to have rosters to know how many kids are actually going to be playing at this field. Because like Ms. Smith said, if there's 3 fields there and you don't have enough kids that have them fields, there's no need to do all these fields. So I'm gonna make a motion that all of this gets done. One other thing, Mr. Bynum, I had a concerned neighbor call me and I went by there. You have a black mesh netting up on one of them backstops. I need to have that removed immediately because it's all torn, the shreds and everything, and it's an eyesore and it doesn't look good from the highway and everything. So if you can have that taken down as soon as possible. But I'm gonna make a
That has
motion
already been
that, okay, I'm gonna make a motion that this gets tabled until a March meeting.
Commissioner, I think, chairperson, normally you don't make a motion.
Okay.
I think that someone else has to make the motion.
Okay, can one of my commissioners make that motion?
I'll make a
the
motion.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion. Go ahead, Edwin. Okay.
So I just also wanted to add in how Mr. Perry talked about the phases. So actually like a timeline, as well as the bank statements, make sure the city's not liable, estimates, proof of funds, and then also make sure that there's some sort of phase or calendar of when, I know obviously this is getting pushed to March. You had said you wanted to start in March, but have some sort of timeline, phases, some for this project. So Mr. Perry said, if you have it in phases, like we want to do this, this, and this, let's say by the grace of God, everything comes back, it all looks good, it can all get done, we can approve all of it. But if we only can approve phase 1 and 3 and number 2 just has to wait, then at least you can kind of get started on something. So I do put that motion forward.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, roll call vote, Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
the table,
Oh, table, yes, yes to table.
to table this. Commissioner Farias,
Yes.
Commissioner Rigo,
Yes.
Commissioner Sobia,
Yes.
Commissioner De Silva, yes. Thank you. Next item, item C, demaris Playground, presentation scope of work. We have someone here to speak on this matter?
Be Mr. Jacques from Stock Architect, I believe, is here. Rodney, you gotta unmute yourself. There you go.
Gotta, still not used to Zoom. So I'm just looking at my screen here. I apologize. I'm not looking at everyone.
Not a problem.
But demaris Park, we were contracted by the Community Development Agency to do a renovation of demaris Park. And I'm assuming everyone has a drawing in front of them?
Yes, they do,
Correct.
Rodney.
Okay. I could, however the board would like me to proceed, I could quickly walk you through it. We could go right to questions. How would you like me to proceed?
Anybody have questions? Or do you want to just have him do the presentation?
I would think, Rodney, maybe just a short general overview of what you're gonna do, and then they can, they
I'll
have
give you
the
a-
information there, so just a
give you a
short
quick-
general overview.
Yep, I'll give you a quick overview. The plan is to replace the playground equipment with equipment that's similar to what we install at the Etna Street Park. We recently finished that park late last year. So we're gonna redo the playground equipment. We're gonna install a half-court basketball court and a small asphalt area where there's 4 square and 2 hopscotch layouts. We're gonna install various new park benches throughout and a new concrete sidewalk to go from the playground area to the basketball court to the public sidewalk. And there's also new fencing on along County Street. That's a quick overview.
I have just one question, Mr. Jacques.
Sure.
The handicap accessible picnic table. I know
Yes.
you put, there's one earmarked for this project. There was one also put on the industry playground. We also did one at Sunset Hill for Housing Authority.
Mhm.
The only problem I have concerns with them, it was that low, where the wheelchair goes, is that overhang there. Kids step on them in there and it bends down. Is there any way that we can reinforce that? Or maybe get a shorter table that doesn't have a bench, like seat side, that a wheelchair, someone that's handicapped can just come up to that and not have that type of table there?
I could look to see if there's a different table. Typically, those accessible tables they're already approved by a lot of the states and the federal regulations. But I can certainly look to see if there's a different type of table or a little bit more heavy duty table, and I would I'll shoot that over to Ms. Smith when that time comes. Is that we can certainly do that.
That's
Yeah.
fine. I'm just making sure because I know like within like not even the dedication was already vandalized in it because someone stepping on it, and we had to go over there and bend it back up. And the same thing with the one that was at Sunset, same way. If they step on it and it doesn't have the support to hold it up.
I'm sorry, you said the one at Etna Street was already vandalized?
Yeah, it was vandalized a little bit. That was before the dedication. I even dedicated it. It was
Okay.
damaged down, so they had to push it back up a little bit.
Okay.
So
Yeah, let me take a look and see if what else is out there. That's fine.
thank you.
Rodney,
Any other
sometimes they have one that's square, and it doesn't have as much of an overhang. It's square without a bench seat. So maybe
Okay.
something like that, even though it may be smaller, it might be a little bit more tolerable to vandalism.
Okay, so smaller is okay then, if it gets a little smaller. Okay.
Absolutely. Commissioner Sylvia, you have a question?
Yes, this entire project is CDA, community development money?
From what I understand, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I yield.
Any other questions, commissioners? Any other commissioners' questions?
Nope.
No,
Can I get a motion to accept this?
I make a motion to accept the scope of that project.
Second.
All set, Commissioner Sylvia?
Yep.
Commissioner Sylvia makes a motion to accept the scope of this project. Commissioner Rego seconds it. Can I get a roll call vote? Commissioner Sylvia,
Yes.
Commissioner Rego,
Yes.
Commissioner Farias,
yes,
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner De Silva, yes. Thank you very much.
So the motion is going to be to accept the scope and to allow them to go out to bid, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Perfect. Anything else from me?
Nope. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Have a good night, everyone.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, Rodney.
Item D, we have Gale Powers CPA project approval signage at Oak Grove and North Burial Cemeteries. We have Miss Powers here.
Yes, I am.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Not bad. Okay, so you want to talk about your letter here?
Sure. I'm looking for just a letter of support to back up my CPA application that I've already submitted to install 2 signs, basically. One at Oak Grove Cemetery, one at North Burial Ground. Extremely similar to the one that was approved 2 years ago and was just installed at the end of the summer at the Bowen Borden Cemetery on Purchase Street. And I believe on my emails that I sent everyone back in November, I had attached schematics of proposed signage and verbiage of what would be on the signs. And said the style of it would hopefully be exactly the same as what has already been installed on Purchase Street at the Bowen Borden Cemetery.
Yeah, can you explain what is gonna be on the sign?
You want me to
Refresh
explain?
my memory.
You want me to read what's going to be on it?
Sure,
Yes, please.
if you could, please.
Sure. Need my specs on.
I know that feeling.
On the Oak Grove Cemetery sign on the front, it would have and this is obviously subject to change or change, whatever, established in 1855 and designed by Josiah Brown. Its original 47 acres were purchased from Dr. Nathan Durfee for $200 an acre. It is currently over 130 acres. Prior to Oak Grove Cemetery, the city used to use the North Burial Ground on North Main Street. The entrance archway, constructed in 1873 by Alexander Lawson of locally quarried Fall River granite, has served as an iconic symbol of Fall River's history. It is executed in high Victorian Gothic style with the words, "The shadows have fallen and they wait for the day." It was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1983. And towards the bottom of the sign, it lists notables buried are listed on the reverse side. So you probably have it in your packet. Basically,
That was in an old packet. That was in your old, but if you show that, that would be great, Gail.
yeah, it was in the email. Everyone was in their original email that I sent back in November. So everyone had it as part of that. On the reverse of that sign just has Oak Grove Cemetery at the top, and it's just gonna list some of the notables that are buried there. So if people get to the cemetery and you ask yourself, who else is here, which happens all the time, I've proposed to have listed Lizzie Borden, Andrew and Abby Borden, James Buffington, our first mayor of Fall River, Louis McHenry Howe, who was instrumental to the election of FDR, and his wife, Grace Howe, who was first cousin to Lizzie Borden and the first female postmistress, Louis Latimer, who's an inventor, Charlie Buffington, who was a baseball player, Mary Macomber, who was an artist, Maud Paulin, who was an architect, Richard Borden and Foster Stafford, who were mill owners, BMC Durfee, James Madison Morton, named after the schools, and Ian Coalhouse, Congressional Medal of Honor recipient. Those are some of the famous people that are buried there that people are interested in.
Have you discussed a location with the cemetery director as to where
No,
the
not
signs
yet.
will go?
Well, once the sign comes in, Chris and I worked side by side to decide where the sign was going to go at the Purchase Street Cemetery. So we took into consideration that he needed a 6-foot swath to be able to bring his mowers in, to be able to mow the lawn. So whatever he thought was appropriate, I had no problem with wherever he thought the location might be. This sign, I think, is going to need a little bit more thought, because this is going to be a well-visited landmark of the city, especially Oak Grove Cemetery. So it might even be something that Mr. Perry might get involved in. Any suggestions people have to location of the sign, I'd be more than willing to listen to.
And just
Jeff,
quickly,
just to remind you,
Commissioner,
the last time the board, it was brought before the board where the location of the sign was. Chris brought it back before the board. So once it's, when and if it's approved, it can go back before the board for an actual location.
Yep.
Is this a freestanding sign, or is it a sign that's gonna get mounted?
No, it's a freestanding sign.
Okay, okay.
What I don't believe with the CPA funds that were used to fix the archway, nothing can be adhered to that. You can't water into it. You can't put anything on the gate. So this is going to have to be a sign put into the ground separately. Right, Mr.
And that's
Perry,
at both, is that at both locations?
I'm sorry?
Both locations?
Yes.
At North
the same
Burial as well.
sign. Yep, exactly. And part of the bonus for this is both of those locations have ongoing or have had CPA projects, so it's going to complement all that. And the signage is going to stay the same, hopefully. It's a nice historic sign looking. It's a real well-made sign, and it's going to complement the city. I mean, we keep going forward with different projects throughout the city.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the cemetery director had something to say.
Yeah, Mr. Pirano, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say what Nancy said, or Ms. Smith said about, we did come back to the board and had the board approve the location at the Purchase Street Cemetery. The sign did come out great. It's a nice addition to that cemetery. So I'm hoping that the board supports this one as well.
I'll make a motion to, for a letter of support.
I'll second that.
Okay, A roll call vote for a letter of support. Commissioner Sylvia,
Yes.
Commissioner Farias,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Rego,
Yes.
Chairman De Silva, yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, item E, Britland Tavasso Soccer Fields, conditions, fees for use. Ms. Smith, do you want to inform us about this?
Well, basically your package, in your package, you see the individual said that there's some damage. Since we've unlocked the gates, we used to have those gates locked and by permit only or by organization only, they were opened. With having these gates unlocked, there's some issues with people going on the field with metal cleats. It's very detrimental to the sod. So we're having some issues. So I've now got some feelers out for some pricing for repairing that. I have no idea what the price is going to be. But basically this organization is saying that it's dangerous. So before any permits are issued, we probably want to make sure that that field is back in tip-top shape. And then of course, that leads us with the second decision of what are we going to do about permitting it out? Something we cannot leave the gates open because of these damages, or are we just going to leave the gates open and constantly do these repairs? That's a decision the board has to make. I know on this agenda, there is information regarding charging fees for various park properties that the board wanted to look into. So at this point, that's all in the board's hands, but I did want to let the board know that we do have some issues there. Whether we want to use Britland Park for games only and open up Travassos for these practices, that's another story. But then again, then we run into the lighting issue because the lighting is in one of our buildings, and then we have to provide keys to these individuals if they're not going to pay city workers to come in and work overtime on the nights that they need lighting. So this is not anything that the board is not aware of, but it's just another piece of what we need to tackle before we get into this permit season.
Have we got an estimate on how much damage there is?
No, I have somebody looking at it. I'm waiting for them to give me some information back, but there's some, due to the age of it, some of the seams are tearing apart. There are some tears in the particular turf, basically made by the use of metal cleats. So I have the gentleman's going to walk the field and give us a price, but the last time we had a little bit of damage there, it's quite costly to repair that turf.
Right, right.
So I hopefully we'll have this, even if I have it for your February meeting, just to give the information to the board so they have a better idea of what they're looking at. But it's definitely something that we need to discuss as far as what do we want to do when it comes to permits for these fields and how we want to move forward.
Is there any way we can, I don't know, like the football fields, they use the different cleats for that turf, or?
Right, but when no one's there watching, Victor,
Yeah,
we
that's-
have no way of knowing what kind of cleats they have on. We have signs everywhere that says no metal cleats. The signs are on those fields, the different rules and regulations, but when the gates are open,
Right.
that there's no supervision. We can't supervise it 24/7. So unfortunately, we have that situation.
At one point, we used to lock those gates.
Yes.
Do you have an idea of when we locked the gates, damage? I know they damaged the fence and to get in there when it was locked, and we were always repairing the fence. But as far as the field, was there less damage when the gates were locked as opposed to now when they're open?
I mean, I would assume there's less damage when the gates are locked, but you're running into a situation of now the leagues have to be issued keys to the property, and we've crossed this bridge before. So There are some guidelines of not being able to lock fields because certain funding was used. But I would think that in the situation where you can let them know that there is actually vandalism and the property is being destroyed, that there are some other guidelines that we can go by. I mean, we try to leave it open to the public, but that leaves it open unsupervised.
I appreciate that, Ms. Smith, because I did know the answer before I asked the question, but I just wanted to bring it out for the newer members of the board that weren't around back then, so to shed a little light on it. Thank you.
Ms. Smith, is there
Yes.
any, I know if we lock this and prove that we can show that there's vandalism and that, do we have cameras down there or no?
I'd rather not answer that question. I would think that it's behind the police station. So I would assume that there is some surveillance cameras that are available in that location.
That was my next question was going to be if there wasn't, or if there is, if we could put more. So that
We've had people send us actual telephone filming of the kids jumping the fence, pushing things. And unfortunately, it's not something that we can track down these kids. So it's an unfortunate thing that we have to deal with. Will security stop that? I don't know that it would completely eliminate the problem.
Any commissioners, any ideas what you want to do here?
I think we should maybe table this because we are going to have discussions about fees for the fields, and not that fees are going to fix it, but I think we should look at the whole situation in its totality instead of just piecemealing it tonight.
All right. I have so Jeff, you make that as a motion to table it?
I'll motion to table.
Second it. Second it.
Okay. A roll call vote. Commissioner Sylvia,
Yes.
Commissioner Farris,
Yes.
Commissioner Rego,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Chairman DeSilva, yes. Right. Item F, submittal of the 2021 field event permit request / fee schedule.
I looked over this letter, and once again, I try and be the voice of reason. Some of the issues that I've discussed in the past is in this letter. Did this letter go out already to the leagues?
No, it needs to be approved by the board. I always put it
Okay.
before the board for changes or for whatever they want to have, and then that letter can go to the leagues.
No, when I look at it, the 8 points or so in there, I'm not the brightest guy in the world, but I can read a little bit, and it clearly states to me in this letter that your paperwork needs to be in order. You must submit a plan, a protocol to meet the COVID restrictions, and all the other items such as the 501(c), rosters, etc., that we've talked about and beat like a dead horse. So I'm very happy with this letter. Some leagues may not be, but that's the way I feel it has to be, because we've addressed this year in and year out. And until they'll have no excuse when they receive this in black and white. What is required? I brought this up before the holidays to give them ample time to get their ducks in order. And I understand with COVID, the state is behind in registering vehicles and in other agencies throughout the state. But this was talked about 2 or 3 months ago. So they should have no excuse when they get this letter. They know what's coming. And if they want to use our facilities, they're gonna, in my opinion, abide by the rules, or they're not gonna get a permit as far as I'm concerned with my vote for permits. So I have no problem with the way this letter is presented.
I don't either. It's a very well, shows everything that we need from the leagues to, supply to us. And, I think we should, send it out to every one of them.
Yeah, so do I have anybody, any other commissioners, Commissioner Burns, Commissioner Rio, have any concerns?
Sir,
I'll make a motion that we send this, letter out to all the league organizations.
I'll second
I have a
it.
second. I have a second.
Second,
Commissioner Farias, roll call vote.
Yes,
Commissioner Rigo,
yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Sylvia,
Yes.
Chairman De Silva, yes. Item G, tree removals. We're gonna have to, we have one here that we're gonna have, it was tabled, so I'm gonna have to have a motion to untable it.
I'll make a motion to untable the
53 California Street.
53 California Street, yes.
I have a second.
Second,
Yay. To untable tree removal for 53 California Street. Commissioner Farias,
Yes,
Commissioner Rigo,
yes.
Commissioner Sylvia,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Chairman De Silva, yes. Mr. Pirano is our director here.
All right, so both of these trees were assessed by our arborist. She recommends both for removal.
I'll make a motion that we, remove both trees,
Second.
53, California Street and, 463 Oak Grove Ave.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Farias, roll call vote. Commissioner Farias makes the motion.
Yes,
Commissioner Sylvia seconds it. Roll call vote. Commissioner Farias,
yes,
Commissioner Sylvia,
Yes.
Commissioner Rigo,
Yes,
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Silva, yes. Item H, Oak Grove Cemetery expansion and design costs. Director Pirano.
Okay, so I know we have a meeting scheduled for February, in which we'll go into a lot more detail on this. But we did, the previous meeting or the meeting before, go over the general layout of graves that's being proposed, as well as some other design elements for the project. So on your screen, you'll just see the quick overview of the layout in its existing location. We've taken into consideration trying to incorporate historic elements. One of the things we are unable to incorporate is winding roads and paths because it is bordered by some very straight lines with the property line, as well as the existing road and existing lots. So one of the historic elements is the inclusion of some obelisks that we have throughout the cemetery, mirroring what those look like and bringing them down into that section. The architect is also working on a design feature that includes the urns. That was a request of this board as well as the city council. So he's working on that, and he will be in attendance at the next meeting to go more in depth into the design, layout, and our grave yield. I'm not sure what the board would like me to get into as far as costs, but I am prepared if there's any questions on that front.
Any commissioners have any concerns or questions? You said, Mr. Parano, we're gonna be talking about this at our February 3rd meeting dedicated just for this. Correct, Ms. Smith?
Yes, it's not dedicated simply to that. I think you can, and you know, have, right, if it's not dedicated as a special meeting, you can address other things, but the majority of the meeting will be, and you can make it a special meeting. It's up to the board.
And I think we talked about it. It was, we're gonna, because I know Commissioner Rigo and everything had mentioned it back in the November meeting, inviting the Friends of Heritage, Oak Grove Cemetery, the Historic Commission of the city, anybody that has any concerns about any historical features and that, to attend this February meeting.
Correct. I believe Mr. Parano was going to reach out to those groups.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion to accept this?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Second.
And do I have a second? Okay, roll call vote, roll call vote of commissioners, Commissioner Farias,
Yes.
Commissioner Sylvia,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Rigo,
Yes.
Chairman De Silva, yes. Okay, item I, security improvements, North Burial Grounds, North Main Street. Before Mr. Morano speaks on this, I wanted this on this agenda. I know I have spoke to most of my fellow commissioners over the last couple of months. We seen it on Facebook and that vandalism being done at North Burial Grounds. And I know Mr. Morano and the police department tried to do their due diligence to see if they could catch anybody, which they didn't able to get anybody on the cameras that we do have down there. It does cost us a lot of money. I think it's Mr. Parano, you said about $1,200 every time we have to have the company come in and clean up these stones, correct?
That's what it's been generally. It's about $100 to $125 a stone. So depending on the number of stones that are affected, affects the price in the cleanup efforts.
So we were talking about, I know I spoke to you guys briefly about it, is we're gonna have some CPA funding going down there on that gatehouse and the gate. In the future, I would like to see if we can get some surveillance cameras installed down there, wireless, that will be based at that gatehouse, but Wi-Fi that Mr. Parano can view North Burial from Oak Grove Cemetery from his office. So we can, Perpetual Care should be paying for this, is because that cemetery, obviously, guys, we're not going to be making any more money from that cemetery, but that is Perpetual Care. We have to take care of that cemetery. Them gravestones have to be protected in that cemetery all together. Have any other concerns or questions from commissioners?
You brought up cameras. Do
Yep.
we have an estimated price of what that might cost, or is Mr. Payano working on that?
I'm currently working on that right now. I've been in touch with a company who's been out to the site, looked at the different areas that we'd like surveilled, and they're currently putting together that pricing for me. I'm hoping within the next week or so to have that pricing. Like the chair said, there is an ongoing CPA project that's already begun. The contractor has been on site and has started their preliminary work, most of which will happen in the spring because of the weather. They can't really do any repointing at this point, but that will be a big security upgrade, having that building fixed and the gate repaired, so it can be locked like Oak Grove is. So with the combination of potential cameras, we should be able to prevent a lot of this in the future, I would hope.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Rigo, you have any concerns? Nope. Okay. Do I have a motion to accept this and wait for Mr. Parano to come back to us with some cost analysis for the security cameras?
Right, I'll make a motion for that.
I'll
Do
second
I have
it.
a second? Second by Commissioner Rigo. Roll call vote, Commissioner Rigo. Commissioner Farry, sorry.
Yes.
Commissioner Rigo,
Yes.
Commissioner Sylvia,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Chairman De Silva, yes. Okay, Commissioner, number 5, Commissioner inquiries. Any inquiries from any commissioners?
No.
Ms. Smith and Mr. Perry, I know we had talked about it in last few meetings. What's going on with the, just so we can update everybody on the light poles?
So I've been working with the CFO to try to find a funding source for that. Trying to get a good handle on where we can go with that. It was added. I had it added to the capital improvement project as one of those top priority things that, you know, if we're going to spend some money out of that capital project, we need to seriously look at that. It's not only something that's been needed for years, but it's something that is a liability issue. So with that, the other piece to this is myself, Ms. Smith, and this board. I think it'll be the footwork. It'll be on Ms. Smith and my part to try to get you some answers as which poles we're going to take down, which poles we're going to put back up. There may be some, as Ms. Smith said earlier, leagues are shrinking. There's not as many kids playing ball. Maybe some of these fields don't need lights, and we can cut our costs there. I have to look at it both in this particular perspective from the city's end of it, as well as for this board. So, but that has been added to the capital projects list, and we're in the process of trying to find the funding source for that now.
Ms. Smith, I had a question for you. I think we had said that if when we decide to take what poles down, we might be looking at trying to keep the electrical in the ground and just capping it off in case we ever needed it in the future.
Correct. Yes, that would be something that we would have to speak about with the contractor, whoever was the person that's going to take down those lights. Normally, they would be able to, keep the electricity there. And, if there were a need to go back and put those poles up in the future, we would have that. It would make it that much less of a cost to replace them.
Commissioner Sylvia.
I have a question regarding a particular field with light poles. Kennedy Park, the big field that has the lights on it. St. Anne's uses that for med flights. Is there any way to help? I don't know if any of those poles are going to be on the list, but if they are, well, I think one of them is, I know leans a little bit, so I would assume that one would be. I'm not sure about the other ones, but when that list is compiled, obviously, the MedFlight is a service that St. Anne's provides, or I would assume. I don't believe the city pays or has any responsibility to provide a landing field on a baseball field. And they use it because it's close to the hospital. Is there a way, when we're talking about looking for funding, to maybe get Steward Health that runs St. Anne's involved in that, and share some of those costs? Because only my opinion, when they put up a new parking garage, they should have put up a helipad on the top of it across from the hospital. But it is what it is. I get that. But they do use those, and if there's no league using those lights anymore, the cost is going to have to come somewhere when they turn those on all year long. I'm not sure what the count is, how many times a med flight is landed there in the course of a year. I'm sure that can be researched, and maybe break down the cost and maybe present that to them, and as a way of maybe replacing a pole or two. Just a thought.
As far as I know, I don't, John, I'm sorry. Kennedy is not one of the fields that have the issues with the poles. The only suggestion that I have with the actual cost for the med flight would possibly be, you know, when the league is no longer using that field between August and possibly March, maybe they could approach St. Anne's and St. Anne's take on the electrical expense at that time, because the league is not using it at all. You know, while the med flight is being used, while the league is using it, there's no way to distinguish what cost. And I mean, at that point, it is what it is. But possibly from maybe the end of August or July, when the league is not using it anymore, they could approach St. Anne's, or, you know, I don't know if the city wants to get involved. We've never been involved with that situation. It's always been something they've worked out. And perhaps they could approach them and the bill gets paid by the hospital for those particular months. So it's like a 6-month thing that they could share. But John, I don't know if you wanted to. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you didn't interrupt me. That's fine. So Commissioner Sylvia, you know, I'll speak for Mrs. Sahadi here, the CFO. She always would love to go down different avenues for funding sources. So I don't think it's a problem to ask or investigate that. To Mrs. Smith's point, I know when we first really started looking at these polls, Mr. Gallagher from Facilities and Grounds and myself went around to some of them, and there were a couple at Kennedy, but they weren't the ones that are used for the big field, the big baseball field. They were the ones that were at the backside of the softball field of Cupola.
Correct.
So that there are a couple of polls. But I don't think it would affect the med flight. But it's definitely an avenue that we could go down. We could definitely take a look, see how Stewart feels about that. And I think that's a great suggestion that Mrs. Smith made, where, you know, maybe it's a certain time of the year that they'll help us pick up some of that cost. I mean, I've been in the city all my life. You don't see a lot of med flights there over the course of the year. If you see 2 or 3, I think that probably would max out what we see there. Most of those med flight situations now go to Rhode Island Hospital. That's the only level 1 trauma hospital in the area. But it's definitely an avenue we can explore for you. I'll talk to Mrs. Sahadi about that.
And one other question, Mr. Perry. Can we get a copy of the list of those polls that are in question?
We provided that, John.
Yeah.
I think twice in their agenda packages. When we first spoke about the polls in the summer, it might have been the September meeting. Each board member got a listing of those polls, but I can certainly send it out again with the polls and the locations.
Right. So to Mrs. Smith's point, that she is correct. You know, she's going to resend it. That's great. Everybody will have it fresh in their emails. But now the work begins for us to try to decide what our recommendations to the board are going to be as far as which ones should come down, which ones should go back up. So again, it's an ongoing process. The quicker we can really move this forward, the better, in my opinion, just because of the liability. But again, funding is the key. So, you know, this isn't something that can be taken out of perpetual care. This isn't something that Mrs. Smith can obviously absorb in her budget. But we have the budget season coming up. We'll be discussing all of those things, and you have my word, and I know Ms. Smith will as well. This will be something we push as a priority that we really need to address.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other commissioner inquiries?
I just have one point I want to make. Ms. Smith did a very good job in our package with the out-of-town fee schedules they have. I think we should, in the next few weeks, really consider looking at that and coming up with a plan of our own, because times have changed, and it may be an avenue we are going to have to go down very seriously.
And most definitely, I agree with you, Commissioner Sylvia, especially when we keep hearing a lot of out-of-town folks are wanting to come in to use these facilities. And then we're even having some of our own leagues saying they want out-of-town children or adults that have to come into these leagues. And that, if the out-of-town leagues is other communities are charging, then I think it's about time for Riverside charging.
I mean, we had a gentleman today saying that they get charged when they go out of town. So why can't we collect some fees and help, use that money to help with maintenance or a pole here, a pole there, or anything. I don't decide basically the budget and where the money goes, but it's something that in these times might help not only the department, but Mr. Perry's department also that oversees the park department. And, it's sign of the times. I think we really have to look at that very seriously and consider charging fees.
And not only that, we got this into email that was sent to us today from the school department, charges for fees for use. They charge for laborers, custodians, security, the different rates and that we can go over and that. And my understanding is the charter school and everything charges in the city already for their use of their facilities and that. So I think this would be a benefit for the taxpayers because the taxpayers are enough already paying enough, and we don't have enough money in our funds and that. So it shouldn't have to keep going back on the taxpayers. If these leagues want to run these leagues and that, they need to start contributing.
I agree. It's been said in the past, they all want to play on the baseball leagues, all want to have Fenway Park. They want the nice turf fields like Gillette Stadium. It all comes at a cost.
Hey, anybody else have any questions or concerns?
Mr. Perry was going to speak.
Oh,
Mr. Chair, if the rest of the commissioners are all set, I just want to say one thing. I know everybody's dying to get out of here, which I get, and I am as well. But I just want to echo what Commissioner Sylvia said. Nancy did a great job with the packet, and something that some people watching this who have been with us for quite some time might be surprised to hear. But I, for one, and I know the board feels the same way, am extremely happy to have her back.
Absolutely.
It's a load off
Yes.
my shoulders, and she does a great job. So I just wanted to thank her and welcome her back as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Nancy. Welcome back.
Thank you,
Thank
Nancy.
you.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay, so until next week, guys, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second. Roll call vote. Commissioner Farias,
Yes.
Commissioner Rego,
yes.
Commissioner Sylvia,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Chairman De Silva, yes. Good night, everyone.
Good
Have a
night.
good night, y'all.
Take care.
Have
Chris,
a nice
thank you.
one.